So AJ Wilson was interviewed and probably said something that she shouldn't have said. And I mean that, said something she should not have said about the Aces roster last year.
What if I told you that the Las Vegas Aces, a team that ruled the WNBA and appeared to be an unstoppable dynasty, are now collapsing from the inside out? What if I told you that the main cause of their demise was recently revealed in a leaked interview with AJ Wilson? You heard correctly. One of the league's most dominant teams is collapsing, and Wilson's startling admission might just explain why.
This is a quote, and it's hilarious. It's hilarious. This person literally quoting word for word what was said, and because of backlash, people are going mad about it. Like, from AJ, it wasn't a championship locker room. I mean, out the gate, going to training camp, I was like, we ain't got it. It wasn't that she had the capability of her teammates, Wilson said, and because of a test that her former South Carolina coach Don Steady taught her that a winning team should look and sound and feel a certain way. I always told myself every game, we got to get there, we're going to check each box, but we didn't. This time around, Wilson said she's spoken to core teammates Jackie Young and Chelsea Gray how to prepare them. So, obviously, she realized that she wasn't going to win a championship and made the whole season about unanimous MVP.
But it doesn't end there. This interview has significant ramifications for Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever as well. While the Aces collapse, the Fever are covertly constructing something hazardous. What did Wilson say that has the entire WNBA talking, and what does this mean for the league's future? Let's break it all down. The Las Vegas Aces, formerly the powerhouse and the gold standard, now appear to be a team that simply slammed headfirst into a brick wall, and the leaking the wreckage is the interview with AJ Wilson. On the left behind AJ Wilson, the current MVP, the team's face and soul, recently acknowledged that she knew from the beginning that this team wasn't built to last. Imagine arriving at training camp after winning a championship and thinking, yeah, we don't have it this year. This isn't just self-awareness. It's a huge red flag because if your best player and leader says that before the season even begins, you're already losing before the first game is played. What's even more bizarre is that it wasn't a minor locker room issue. Wilson flat out made a strong statement when he said, "This wasn't a championship locker room." It's the kind of thing that makes you realize that everything you believed about this team was false because although the Aces appeared to have everything under control and had depth in their coaching and talent, they were barely holding it together behind closed doors.
We have to get better. We have to really take a sharp look at ourselves, look ourselves in the mirror, see our shortcomings, and then, you got to make the moves necessary, whatever that means, to put the best product that we possibly can. It's not going to be the same group probably next year.
And we are currently witnessing the fallout because losing one or two important players is merely business, but losing half of your squad is a disaster. Kelsey Plum has vanished. Tiffany Hayes has left. Alicia Clark has passed away. The Aces aren't just losing pieces, they're being completely destroyed. Sydney Carlson is gone, and Kate Martin, a potential young player, was selected in the expansion draft without any protection.
Thing that happened to one WNBA team this offseason, and I told somebody a while back, I said, I'm going to start doing some digging. All right, and the digging was, why is AJ Wilson losing all of her teammates with the Las Vegas Aces? What's going on? Everybody leaving town. And all of a sudden, an interesting article dropped with some very interesting comments where it looks like AJ Wilson's driving a bus and her teammates with the Las Vegas Aces are in front of the bus and boop, 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 boop. She just ran them all over.
So let's discuss why, as this isn't just about players departing for higher salaries. It's about a culture that, in Wilson's opinion, wasn't functioning, and it all begins with the crucial question of what happened to the chemistry.
Somewhere, Kelsey Plum got a little cracked smile, probably, off the team. Glad to be, I would guess.
Wilson stated in her interview that this team lacked leadership, which is intriguing because when you look at a championship team, they usually claim to have a brotherhood or sisterhood where everyone was locked in and there was a trust that carried them through the season. However, Wilson simply exposed the Aces for lacking that. She talked about how they weren't clicking and how she had to constantly try to extract greatness from her teammates because there was no accountability.
You see this quote, it wasn't a championship locker room. Wow. Okay. Interesting.
That's significant because the Aces were promoted as an unstoppable force with a swagger. They had a roster full of stars and Becky Hammond, one of the best basketball minds in the game, but if Wilson is saying that they weren't really a team, then what were they? When you look at the reasons, a pattern starts to emerge. This wasn't just a bad year. It wasn't just some injuries or unfortunate breaks. It was a team that had problems deep down. Look at how they played. There were moments when they looked dominant, but then they would suddenly look lost. It all culminated in the semi-final matchup against the New York Liberty. Wilson talked about it. She said she kept telling herself, we're going to get there, we're going to check each box, but they never did. They had games where they should have dominated, but they didn't. And in that crucial game, the Aces' key players combined for a measly 28 points. That's not just a bad night, that's a team falling apart at the worst possible time. So let's break this down, because when a team collapses like this, there are usually three big reasons: coaching, chemistry, and leadership. And right now, the Aces are failing on all three fronts. Let's start with coaching. Becky Hammond is a legend. She was the finalist for NBA head coaching jobs. She's one of the brightest minds in basketball, but in this situation, there are some real questions about how she managed this team. If Wilson is saying the leadership wasn't there, that means someone wasn't stepping up. And if players are leaving en masse, that means they didn't feel connected to the system. Hammond's coaching style is intense. She demands a lot, but what happens when players stop buying and what happens when a coach's voice starts to lose impact? We might be seeing the answer right now. And then there's chemistry. That's where the real damage was done. Wilson's remarks make it evident that this team never fully gelled, and you could see it in the way they performed. On some nights, they appear to be a dominant team, but on other nights, they appeared more like a collection of individuals than a cohesive unit, which is why players are departing, and we're witnessing this. Wilson is undoubtedly a leader, but the biggest problem of all is that you need multiple voices in the locker room to hold everyone accountable. You also need veterans to step up and keep the team locked in. If you lose that, you lose everything. Wilson mentioned wanting to be great and challenging herself and her teammates, but if she's the only one doing that, what happens to the rest of the team? Who else was stepping up? If the answer is no one, then that explains everything. This team wasn't a family. It wasn't built on trust. Instead, it was built on talent, and talent by itself doesn't win championships. Now, let's change course, because while the Aces are collapsing, another team is rising, the Indiana Fever. This is where things get really interesting, because while the Aces lose their core, the Fever are building their roster by adding shooters, defenders, veteran leaders, and most importantly, Caitlin Clark. Let's discuss why this is important, since the way the Aces are disintegrating is precisely what the Fever is avoiding. The Fever is attempting to create a culture rather than merely add talent. Let's be clear, Caitlin Clark isn't entering a situation similar to Wilson's. Instead, she is joining a team that is focused, investing in the right pieces, and genuinely building around her in the right way.
This is a system that lasts.
People love to doubt Clark, saying she's just a shooter and won't be able to handle the physicality of the WNBA. However, she's been dealing with the fact that she's been double and triple teamed every night in college her entire career, and she's still dominated, and now she has teammates who can truly help. In the paint, Aaliyah Boston's Sophie Cunningham as a marksman, a defense force. Natasha Howard Sydney Carlson, a veteran leader. This isn't just about Caitlin Clark being good, this is about the Fever setting her up for success in a way that the Aces failed to do with their own superstars. So what happens next for the Aces? It's damage control. They're going to try and patch this roster up, but let's be real, it won't be the same when your locker room is already broken, when your best players are openly saying the team wasn't right. That's not fixable overnight for the Fever. It's go time. They're ready to take that next step. And if this all plays out the way it looks like it will, the Fever could be the next big thing in the WNBA. So yeah, A.A. Wilson's interview didn't just reveal why the Aces collapsed, it revealed who's about to take over the league. And I don't know about you, but I think we're about to witness something special, and we're just getting started. Let's take this even deeper, because we are witnessing something that doesn't happen often in professional sports, a dynasty crumbling in real time. The Las Vegas Aces were supposed to be the next great WNBA powerhouse. They had the roster, the coaching, and back-to-back championships to prove it. But instead of securing their place in history, they're unraveling in the most spectacular way possible. And here's the crazy part, this isn't just about losing players, it's about losing identity. When you think about great teams, whether in the NBA, WNBA, or any sport, you realize that the best ones have a culture, something that holds them together through the ups and downs. The Golden State Warriors, the Yukon Huskies, and the San Antonio Spurs. If you're an elite player in the WNBA, why wouldn't you want to play for the Aces? They have a superstar in A.A. Wilson, a coach with NBA experience in Becky Hammond, and they recently won back-to-back titles, but players aren't sticking around. These teams built dynasties on something more than talent. They built legacies on trust, leadership, and accountability. One of their key players, Kelsey Plum, is no longer with them. One of their season leaders, Alicia Clark, has passed away. Not to mention Sydney Carlson, who is not only a reliable player but also A.A. Wilson's best friend on the team. If your best friend, your ride or die, decides to leave the team, that tells you everything you need to know. This is more than just player movement. It's a sign that something wasn't working in the locker room.